I knew something was wrong the second my mom said, "Don't overthink it," because in my family, that phrase always meant I was about to get screwed. We were sitting in my parents' living room, the one with the Italian marble floors no one was allowed to walk on with shoes, the restoration hardware couches wrapped in plastic like they were museum artifacts, and the giant wall of windows overlooking the private lake they loved more than their own kids. My sister, Brianna, was perched on the edge of the couch, bouncing her Louboutin like a toddler on Christmas morning. She'd just graduated from Columbia with her MBA, and the energy in the room was celebratory. Not warm, not proud, just expensive. Champagne bottles sweating in silver buckets, a catered spread from some place that doesn't list prices on the menu. My dad stood near the fireplace with his arms crossed, already wearing that smug half smile he gets when he thinks he's being generous. And me? I was sitting there thinking, wow, for once, maybe I won't be the afterthought. That was my first mistake. For context, I'm the older sibling, 32. I paid my way through college, took out loans, worked 3 jobs, slept in my car for a semester when rent spiked and my parents told me it would build character. Brianna, she's the golden child, the miracle baby, the one who could do no wrong even when she wrecked a BMW at 19 and blamed it on anxiety, the one whose mistakes were always phases, while my achievements were expected. Still, I showed up. I always showed up, because some stupid part of me still wanted their approval. Dad cleared his throat like he was about to announce a merger. "So," he said, dragging the word out, "we wanted today to be special." Mom nodded aggressively, like she was afraid he'd mess up the script. Brianna clasped her hands together. I noticed how she didn't even glance at me. That should have been my second warning. "As you know," Mom said, "graduating from an Ivy League business school is no small feat." I swallowed. I already knew this speech wasn't for me. "We wanted to set Brianna up for success," Dad continued, "and make sure she starts her next chapter without stress." Then he slid a manila folder across the coffee table. Brianna lunged for it like it was a winning lottery ticket. She opened it, screamed, actually screamed. I flinched. Inside were property documents, deeds, floor plans, mortgage statements stamped paid in full. "Oh my God," she cried, tears instantly appearing like she'd practiced this moment in the mirror. "You bought me a house?" Mom rushed over and hugged her. "Not just a house, sweetheart," she said. "A home," Dad added. 4 bedrooms, gated community, 15 minutes from downtown. We figured you'd want room to grow." Grow into what? A dynasty? I sat there smiling like an idiot, nodding, clapping, telling her congratulations while my stomach hollowed out. I told myself not to compare. I told myself my moment would come. I told myself maybe they had something planned for me too, because why else would they insist I be there? Why else would they keep saying, "We have something for you as well"? Eventually, Mom turned to me. Her smile shifted, thinner, tighter, like she was bracing for impact. "And for you," she said, reaching into her purse, "we got something very thoughtful." She handed me an envelope. Not a folder, not a box, an envelope. I opened it. Inside was a glossy brochure with a stock photo of a sweaty, smiling woman lifting weights. Bold letters across the front read, "Elite Body Performance." On the bottom, 3-month membership prepaid. I laughed, out loud, because my brain refused to accept that this was real. "Is this a joke?" I asked. Dad frowned. "We thought it would be motivating." Motivating? I stared at the pamphlet while Brianna pretended not to smirk. "Motivating how?" I asked. Mom sighed like I was being difficult. "You've mentioned feeling stuck, unhappy. Maybe focusing on your health would help." Dad added, "And let's be honest, you could stand to lose a few pounds." There it was, the blade sliding in. Clean, casual, like they weren't gutting me in front of everyone. I looked down at myself. I wasn't obese. I wasn't even overweight. I just wasn't rail thin like Brianna, who survived on green juice and validation. "So," I said slowly, Just to be clear, you bought Brianna a house, and you got me a gym membership. Dad shrugged. It's not a competition. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, it was quieter than that, like a lock clicking shut. I stood up. Congrats on the house, I said to Brianna, meeting her eyes for the first time. She looked away. Coward. I'm gonna head out. Mom jumped up. Don't be like this. I turned. Like what? She hesitated. So sensitive. I nodded. Right. I left. I drove home. I sat in my overpriced apartment that I paid for myself, and I cried. Not because of the gym membership, not really, but because it confirmed what I'd spent my entire life trying to deny. I would never matter to them the way Brianna did. I was the backup kid, the spare, the one they fixed with cheap solutions and backhanded advice. I blocked their group chat that night. All of it. The congratulations, the emojis, the fake apologies from my mom, the silence from my dad. I told myself I was done, that I'd finally stopped chasing love from people who only knew how to weaponize it. What I didn't know then, what none of them knew, was that the gym membership was about to become the most expensive gift they'd ever given me, because buried beneath that insult was something they never expected: freedom. And I was about to use it to burn their perfect little world to the ground. The thing nobody tells you about humiliation is that it doesn't just sting, it organizes you. It lines your thoughts up like soldiers and gives you a mission. The morning after the gym membership incident, I woke up before my alarm for the first time in years. No anxiety spiral, no doom scrolling, just this cold, sharp clarity humming in my chest. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, stared at my own reflection, and said out loud, "They think you're weak." It didn't hurt anymore. It fueled me. I went to the gym that same day, not because I cared about losing weight, but because I refused to waste anything they'd tried to use to shame me. Elite Body Performance was one of those boutique gyms where everyone pretends they don't care about money while wearing $200 leggings. The trainer assigned to me was named Cole, early 30s, buzz cut, fake tan, teeth too white to be trusted. He looked at my intake form and raised an eyebrow. "What's your goal?" he asked. I thought about it for half a second. "Strength," I said. He smiled. "We can do that." What I didn't put on the form was that strength, for me, wasn't about muscle. It was about leverage. 3 weeks in, my body started changing, but more importantly, my mind did. I slept better, thought sharper. Rage became discipline. Every rep felt like reclaiming something they'd taken from me. And the irony? My parents noticed immediately. Mom texted me, "You look different lately." I didn't respond. Dad left a voicemail asking if I had calmed down yet. I deleted it. Silence was power, and I was finally learning how to use it. Around that time, Brianna posted the house. Of course she did. Instagram carousel, soft beige aesthetic, champagne flute on the marble island. Caption, "So grateful, new beginnings." I stared at my phone until my thumb hurt. Comments flooded in. Power couple vibes, boss girl era. Dad liked it. Mom commented hearts. I noticed something else, though. The realtor she tagged? Nathaniel Cross. That name landed funny in my chest, because Nathaniel Cross was my ex. We hadn't ended badly, just quietly. He'd been ambitious, connected, always networking. My parents loved him more than they ever loved me, which should have been a red flag. We broke up after I realized he was more interested in proximity to power than partnership. Still, seeing his name attached to Brianna's house felt intentional, like another subtle reminder of where I stood. I did some digging. Turns out Nathaniel wasn't just the realtor. He was also advising Brianna on investment properties. Funny how that worked out. I wondered how long it would take before lines blurred, or if they already had. That question answered itself a month later at my parents' anniversary party. I almost didn't go, but something told me I needed to see it, to witness the rot firsthand. The house was packed with their usual crowd: lawyers, developers, doctors, women with frozen smiles, and men who talked too loud. Brianna arrived late, draped in confidence and white silk. Nathaniel was with her, hand on her lower back, too familiar. I watched from across the room as she laughed at something he whispered. My dad clapped him on the shoulder like he was already family. Mom beamed. When Brianna finally noticed me, her smile faltered for half a second. "Hey," she said. "Didn't think you'd come." "Didn't think I was invited?" I replied. She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." I glanced at Nathaniel. "Congrats on the house," I said. He blinked. "Oh, thanks." Brianna cut in fast. "Nathaniel's been a huge help." The way she said it, possessive, proud, made my skin crawl. Later that night, after enough wine to loosen tongues, I overheard Mom talking to one of her friends. "We're so relieved Brianna has someone stable now, after everything with her anxiety." I leaned in closer. "And our other daughter?" the friend asked. Mom laughed. "Oh, she's independent. Always has been." Independent, the word they used when they didn't want to take responsibility. I left early, again, but this time I didn't cry. I opened my laptop and started planning. Here's what my parents never understood about me. I pay attention, I notice patterns, and I don't forget slights. Over the years, I'd collected pieces of information without realizing their value. Business whispers, financial habits, affairs disguised as golf weekends. I knew my dad had been skimming from one of his joint ventures for years. I knew Mom kept a separate account he didn't know about. I knew Brianna's job offer wasn't as solid as she pretended. It was contingent, fragile. I also knew Nathaniel liked to blur ethical lines when money was involved. So I started small. I reached out to an old contact from my consulting days, Melissa. She owed me a favor. I asked her to run a background check on some recent property transfers tied to my parents' LLCs. What came back made my jaw tighten. There were irregularities, missing disclosures, shady timelines. Nothing illegal on the surface, but messy enough to unravel if someone pulled the right thread. Meanwhile, Brianna's life kept looking perfect online. Housewarming parties, designer furniture, hustle captions. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. She called me one night, drunk, first time in months. "You think Mom and Dad love you more than me," she slurred. I stayed quiet. "They don't," she continued. "They just need you less." That was the most honest thing she'd ever said. Then she hung up. That call haunted me, not because I felt sorry for her, but because it confirmed something ugly. We were both products of the same manipulation. She'd just been rewarded for complying. The gym kept becoming my anchor. Cole noticed my progress. "You're different," he said one morning. "Most people quit by now." I smiled. I'm not most people. He didn't know the half of it. Then the invitation came. My parents wanted to clear the air. Private dinner, just family. Brianna insisted. "We need to talk," she texted. I almost declined, but something told me this was the moment. So I went. Dinner was tense from the jump. Dad talked about the market. Mom critiqued the wine. Brianna barely touched her food. Finally, Dad sighed. "We feel like you've been distant." I laughed. "You gave me a gym membership instead of a house." Mom winced. "We've apologized." "No," I said, "you justified." Silence. Brianna spoke up. "You're acting like a victim." I leaned forward. "And you're acting like this house fell from the sky." Her face flushed. "I earned it." "With what? Your degree? Or Nathaniel's connections?" That did it. She stood up. "You're jealous," she snapped. Dad slammed his hand on the table. "Enough." I stood too. "You're right. Enough." I looked at all of them. "Enjoy your gifts, enjoy your secrets, because I'm done pretending." As I walked out, my dad called after me. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I turned back, smiled, and said, "Oh, trust me, I won't." Because at that point, my plan was already in motion, and none of them realized that the real gift, the one that would change everything, wasn't the gym membership. It was the underestimation. There's a very specific moment when you stop being angry and start being dangerous. For me, it happened on a Tuesday at 6:12 a.m., standing in the locker room of Elite Body Performance, staring at my phone while everyone else pretended not to look at their own cellulite under fluorescent lights. Melissa's email had come through at 5:59 a.m. Subject line, "You were right." That was all. No emojis, no small talk. I locked myself in a bathroom stall and read it twice. Then a third time. Then I sat down on the closed toilet lid and laughed so hard I had to cover my mouth to keep from making noise. My parents' money wasn't just messy, it was dirty. Not cartoon villain illegal, but white-collar dangerous. Shell companies layered inside shell companies. Properties transferred between LLCs to dodge taxes. Consulting fees paid to people who didn't consult. And the crown jewel, Brianna's house, the gift, the symbol, the thing they'd rubbed in my face. It wasn't clean. It wasn't even fully theirs. It was leveraged against 2 other properties and quietly collateralized using funds from a joint venture my dad technically wasn't allowed to touch. If anyone pulled that thread, everything unraveled. I didn't celebrate. I didn't panic. I organized. First rule of revenge, never move emotionally. I didn't confront them, didn't hint, didn't gloat. I went quiet. I let them assume I'd finally accepted my place. Mom even texted me one morning, "Proud of you for focusing on yourself. Growth looks good on you." I almost replied with a smiley face. Almost. Instead, I met with a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, an old college friend who specialized in corporate compliance and loved chaos like it was a hobby. I slid the folder across the table. He skimmed it, whistled. "This is bad," he said. I tilted my head. "How bad?" He leaned back. "Like, your dad should not be sleeping well bad." I smiled for the first time in weeks. At the same time, Brianna's life started cracking in public. Subtle at first. Passive-aggressive Instagram stories, quotes about loyalty, captions about being misunderstood. I heard through mutuals that her job offer was being reevaluated. Budget cuts, restructuring. Funny how the universe works. Nathaniel, meanwhile, was suddenly everywhere. Family dinners, vacations, acting like he already owned the place. And maybe he thought he did. One night I got a DM from him. "Long time, hope you're doing well." I stared at the message until my screen dimmed. Then I replied, "Doing great. Hope the house is worth it." He didn't respond for hours. When he did, it was defensive. "I don't know what you're implying." I didn't answer. Silence makes people confess more than words ever will. A week later, he called me. Actually called. "Can we talk?" he asked. I pretended to hesitate. "About?" He exhaled. "Everything." We met for coffee, neutral territory. He looked tired, like someone who'd made a deal they were starting to regret. "You and Brianna," I said casually, stirring my drink. "How long?" He stiffened. "It's not like that." I smiled. "Nathaniel, please." He looked away. "After you and I broke up." A lie. I didn't call him on it. Not yet. He started rambling about pressure, about expectations, about my parents promising him opportunities. I listened, filed it all away. When we parted, I hugged him. He flinched. That told me everything. The real bomb dropped 2 weeks later at Brianna's housewarming redo, because the first one didn't feel intimate enough. I showed up late, wore black, simple, powerful. People noticed. Brianna noticed more. She cornered me in the kitchen. "What are you doing here?" she hissed. I sipped my wine. "Supporting family." She laughed nervously. "You don't support anything." I leaned in. "Careful." Then Mom tapped her glass for attention. "We have an announcement," she said. My stomach tightened. Dad wrapped an arm around her. "We're helping Brianna and Nathaniel with a new venture." "Of course you are." "Real estate development," Dad continued. "He'll be coming on board with the family business." Applause erupted. Brianna beamed. Nathaniel looked like he might throw up. I clapped slow, deliberate. Dad caught my eye. His smile faltered. He knew. Not what I knew, but that I knew something.
After the party, Brianna confronted me outside. "You're trying to sabotage me," she accused. I shrugged. "I'm just watching." She stepped closer. "You've always been jealous." That word again. I laughed. "No, I've always been observant." She went pale. "What does that mean?" I leaned in. "It means don't build your dream on stolen ground." The next day, I made my move. Not directly, never directly. I leaked anonymized documents to a regulatory journalist Melissa knew. Clean, organized, impossible to ignore. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. Patterns speak louder than accusations. 3 days later, my dad called me at 2 a.m. He never called at 2 a.m. "What did you do?" he demanded. I sat up in bed, heart racing, but my voice was calm. I said, "I went to the gym." He hung up. The fallout was immediate. Audits, frozen accounts, temporary holds. Mom called crying. Brianna screamed. Nathaniel disappeared, literally. Phone off, socials wiped. I heard he'd flown out of state. Smart move. Cowardly, but smart. They tried to pull me back in. Apologies, promises. "We didn't mean it that way. We're family." I didn't budge. I watched as everything they'd built on favoritism and secrecy started collapsing under its own weight. One night, Brianna showed up at my door, mascara streaked, voice shaking. "You did this," she said. I nodded. "Yes." She slapped me, hard. I didn't react. She broke down. "They're blaming me," she sobbed. "They say the house is my fault." I crossed my arms. Funny how gifts come with strings. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "Why?" she whispered. I answered honestly, "Because you needed to know what it feels like to be small." After she left, I sat on my couch and stared at the wall for a long time. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean, like I'd finally washed something toxic out of my system. But it wasn't over yet, not even close, because justice doesn't land all at once. It unfolds, slowly, publicly, and the final act, that was still coming.
People think justice is loud. Courtrooms, headlines, someone getting dragged away in handcuffs. But real justice? Real justice is quieter. It's watching people finally see the consequences of the choices they swore didn't matter. It's watching power evaporate when it's no longer protected by money and denial. And it's realizing you don't feel empty when it's over. You feel free. The investigation didn't explode all at once. It seeped into their lives like smoke. My dad's business partners stopped returning calls. Longtime friends suddenly had conflicts. My mom's charity board quietly asked her to step down until things stabilized. Brianna's house, the house, became a liability overnight. The bank wanted answers. The city wanted documentation. Turns out living in a gated community doesn't protect you when paperwork starts screaming. I stayed invisible. No statements, no confrontations. I went to the gym, I worked, I slept 8 hours a night for the first time in years. The less I reacted, the more frantic they became. Dad finally showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked older, not gracefully older, panicked older, like a man who just realized the rules he bent his entire life were real after all. "We need to talk," he said. I stepped aside, let him in, offered him water. He declined, sat stiff on the edge of my couch like a stranger. "You did this," he said flatly. I nodded. "Yes." His jaw tightened. "Why?" I didn't answer right away. I wanted him to sit with the question. Finally, I said, "Because you taught me that love in this family is transactional." He scoffed. "That's not fair." I leaned forward. "You bought Brianna a house and gave me a gym membership." Silence. His eyes flicked away. There it was, the truth he never wanted to acknowledge. "I didn't do anything illegal," he muttered. "Maybe not," I said, "but you did everything unethical." He stood up abruptly. "You're destroying this family." I met his gaze. "No, I stopped protecting the lie." He left without another word.
Brianna spiraled. Her job offer vanished entirely. Hiring freeze, they said. Nathaniel never came back. I heard rumors he'd cut a deal, gave information in exchange for distance. Typical. Brianna tried calling me again, then texting, then showing up. I didn't answer. Not because I hated her, but because I finally understood that saving her was never my responsibility. The house went first, quietly. Voluntary sale, they called it. Brianna posted nothing. No goodbye, no closure, just silence where the dream used to be. Mom started drinking earlier in the day. Dad started aging in weeks instead of years. Their world shrank, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't shrinking with it. The journalist's piece dropped a month later. Not explosive, surgical. No names in the headline, but enough dots for anyone with half a brain to connect. People whispered, doors closed, invitations stopped coming, my parents' social currency evaporated. And me? I was fine. Better than fine. I got promoted, moved into a place I loved, not because it impressed anyone, but because it felt like mine. Cole asked me once why I kept training so hard. I told him the truth, because I don't ever want to be small again. The final confrontation happened by accident. I ran into my mom at a grocery store. No makeup, no jewelry, just a woman who looked tired. She froze when she saw me. Then she cried, right there between the avocados and the cereal aisle. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. I believed her, and somehow that hurt more. "I know," I said. "That's the problem." She asked if we could start over. I thought about every dismissal, every comparison, every time love came with conditions. I shook my head. I already did. That night, I sat alone on my balcony and watched the city lights flicker on. I thought about the gym membership, the insult, the moment they underestimated me. And I laughed, not bitterly, gratefully. They gave me the one thing they never meant to confer, the push to walk away and build something honest, something mine. Justice didn't come with applause, it came with peace, and for the first time in my life, that was enough.